Hello, future officers. Have you wondered what's the difference between rights and duties? These terms appear in the Indian Constitution and it's essential for us to understand the difference. Let's take an example to understand this difference. Let's imagine you are boarding a bus. I'm assuming that you're a young person. You board a bus and then you see there's a vacant seat in the bus. You go and sit there. The bus starts moving, it travels some distance, and then there's a senior citizen who boards the bus after some time. The person sees there's no vacant seat there. You stand up from your seat and then you offer the senior citizen to sit there. The senior citizen takes that seat. Now, the fact that you sat on an empty seat is your right. You have the right to sit there. Then when the senior citizen boarded the bus, you stood up and gave your seat. Now that's a duty. That's not a right. It's a duty. Had you not offered your seat, nobody would have penalized you. But you still chose to do that. So that's a duty. I hope you've understood the difference between rights and duties. If yes, let me know in the comments. Now, let's move to why. Why were fundamental duties added to the Indian Constitution? To make responsible citizens. If you look at the duties, which we will see after some time, those are civic and moral duties. If a citizen follows those duties, they become better citizens. And also, rights and duties are correlative. What does that mean? It means that if you have rights, you also have some duties which you should be following. For example, you have the right to drive on a road. You can drive your car on an empty road or any road. But if you start throwing garbage on that road and there's a pile of garbage on that road, it will be blocked and you will not be able to drive your car. So it is a right to drive the car on the road, but it is also your duty to keep the roads clean. So I hope you've understand how rights and duties are correlative. Moving on, how were these fundamental duties added in the Constitution? So these fundamental duties were not there when we first had our Constitution after the independence, by the way. So it was not there. But in the year 1976, during emergency, the need was felt for fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution. And inspired from the Constitution of USSR, we thought of incorporating those in some duties basically in our Constitution as well. So on the recommendations of Swaran Singh Committee, these duties were added. Now the Swaran Singh Committee gave a lot of suggestions or recommendations on which duties or what duties should be there in the Indian Constitution. So the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976 took 10 recommendations of the committee and added those to the Constitution as fundamental duties. Now it's very easy to remember 42nd, 4 plus 2 is 6, 1976. So you can remember this in this way, that the 42nd Amendment Act was passed in the year 1976. Then another one fundamental duty. So total we have 11 fundamental duties. So one was added in 2002. 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. Now what was it? We'll see. Another interesting fact is that the Japanese Constitution is the only democratic constitution in the world with a list of duties for citizens apart from the Indian Constitution. So we've learned how these duties were added. Then what are these duties basically? Now these are confined to citizens only and not to foreigners. So if there's a foreigner who comes to India, we do not expect that foreigner to follow these fundamental duties. And these are non-justiciable and non-enforceable by courts. You cannot go to the court saying that this X person is not following this fundamental duty. The court cannot punish you for not following a fundamental duty. But the Parliament can enforce this through a suitable legislation. For example, the Right to Education Act in 2009. Now I told you there was this 11th duty which was added in the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, right? So what was it? It was a duty of parents to send their children from 6 to 14 years of age to school, basically to get education. And then the Parliament came up with this Right to Education Act, where it became a law to provide free and compulsory education to children between 6 to 14 years of age. Let's look at a previous year question based on what we've studied so far. Which of the following statements is or are true of the fundamental duties of an Indian citizen? This was asked in UPSC CSE 2017. Now, the number one statement is a legislative process has been provided to enforce these duties. Okay, we saw this in the previous slide. And they are correlative to legal duties is the second statement that's given. Okay, about this also we've seen in the previous slide. Select the correct answer using the code given below. A, B, C, D. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. I want you to pause the video and give the answer in the comments. Okay. So I hope you've understood what we've studied so far and you have been able to answer this previous year question. Let's move ahead. Where have been these duties added in the Constitution? In the Part 4A. Now we understand Part 4, but what is this A? Now what happens, our Constitution is a mixture of fluidity and rigidity. So it can be changed and also there are some strict ways of changing it, right? So when we change our Constitution, as in when we add or delete something, the parts remain the same. Suppose we decide that Part 1 should not be there in the Constitution. If we delete it, what will happen? Will Part 2 become Part 1? No. Part 2 will be Part 2. In the same way, if we add something, such as here we added something. So, the Part 4 was there, the Part 5 is there, we added something in between, right? But then we did not name it because the other parts, the rest of the parts, the names of those parts will be changed, right? So, we added an A so that we understand it's Part 4A, it's a new part that we've added. Same goes for articles as well. When we add a new article, we add these alphabets to it, such as Article 51A, which was added later on, right? So that is why this A is there, and these are clauses A to K. We'll see these clauses. Now, I'll give you a trick how to remember these fundamental duties, because there are 11 and sometimes they are asked in the way it has been mentioned in the Constitution. So, Article 51A, Clause A. To abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and national anthem. To remember this, it is Clause A, we'll only remember abide. A, abide. That's all we have to remember this. Next, 51A-B, Clause B basically. To cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the struggle for freedom. For this, we'll remember Bhagat Singh, okay, because B, Bhagat Singh, and this is also Clause B. That's how we'll remember this. For Clause C, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Let's look at this picture. Now, Champions 2024. So, this picture was taken in the victory parade which happened after India won the ICC T20 World Cup. So, here entire India came together to celebrate this win. That is what is also in a way told in this clause. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, of course, it's not about sovereignty but then unity. If we remember unity and if we remember this picture, it will be easy for us to remember this clause, 51A Clause C. Then there's 51A Clause D. This is again very easy to remember. You can see this picture. What does this clause say? To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Defend D, and this picture, if you can remember, this will be easy for you to remember this clause. Then there's Clause E, which is to promote the common spirit of brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religions, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. In a way, if we sum up this entire thing in one word, that is equality. and equality, this is E. So, that is how we will remember this one. Then there is F, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now, this is Red Fort. Red Fort is a part of our heritage, and that is how we will remember Fort, F, right, and this is clause F. Okay, easy to remember, I guess. Then there is G, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures, etc. This is a photo of greenery, this is G, and this is exactly what we have to protect, is what the clause tells us. So, again G, greenery, easy to remember. Then there is H, H, to develop a scientific temper, humanism and spirit of inquiry and reform. Here is a picture of Homi Jahangir Bhabha. For you to understand or remember this easily, I have added a picture from the web series, that's Rocket Boys, which is about Homi Jahangir Bhabha. Okay, so why this? Because Homi, H, scientific temper, this clause is H, and also humanism, H. That is how we will remember this clause. Then Article 51A, clause I, to safeguard public property and abjure violence. For this we will remember ISIS. What does ISIS do? Exactly opposite of this. Public property is destroyed by them, they get into violence. So, that is why we will remember I and ISIS, and this picture will help you remember. Then the 10th one is J, clause J, which is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavour and achievement. For this we will remember Ravindra Jadeja, J, Jadeja, and this is clause J. And how will this help in remembering? Because all spheres. Now Ravindra Jadeja is an all-rounder. He is a batsman, he is a bowler, he is a good fielder, and he helps the nation constantly rise to higher levels of endeavour and achievement, because he has been doing extremely good in the field of cricket. Then there is the last one, that is K, as a parent or guardian, to provide opportunities for education to his child between the age of 6 and 14 years. Okay, knowledge, K, easy to remember. Now I want you to pause this video and tell me in the comments that which was the amendment which brought this, added this clause, that is K. Fine. Now let us look at a PYQ. Pause the video and answer this in the comments for me. To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India as a provision made in the dash. So, you know what we are studying, but also in the comments tell me which was the clause. I had shown you a picture, try to remember that picture, and also tell me the clause that tells us about this. Fine. So, that was all about this lecture. I hope you have understood fundamental duties, and you've also understood the difference between duties and rights, and I'm sure you were able to answer the questions, the 2 previous year questions that I have added in the lecture. And also tell me what else do you want to learn from me, the topics that you want to learn, and let me know in the comments. And if you really loved this video, liked this video, then give a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to UPSC Warriors by Unacademy. See you in the next video. Thank you.